We are live. Go on line. Today's guest is Natasha Frater with Windows of Toulouse-Lautrec. How are you doing today?
Hi, I don't know how it is on your end, but I was losing you a little bit there. I hope it's not a bad connection on my end. Are you hearing me okay right now?
I am, but you know what? I'm going to take these out. Sometimes you try something different.
Okay.
And it changes. All right. So does that sound any better?
Yeah, actually, I could hear you. What was happening is that you were kind of cutting in and out, not audio-wise, but just as far as connection.
Oh, weird. Well, let's hope the internet stays with us. We are, you know what, this is quarantine. It is, you hope for the best. Sometimes the connection dies on us. Sometimes it is perfect all the way through. So who's to say this is casual, this is fun, this is what it is. So does it sound a little smoother now?
Yeah, on my end, it's all good for now. So I'll keep fingers, toes, everything crossed.
Perfect. So I'm going to just redo the intro quickly, just so that we have it and we can kind of cut it off from here and go forward.
Sounds great. Yeah.
So we are live. Hello, everyone. Welcome to The Show Must Go On line. Today's guest is Natasha Frater with VOYEUR, the Windows of Toulouse-Lautrec. How are you doing today?
Hi, I am doing really well. I am so happy and excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming on. It's so exciting. I've loved looking at all of the photos of you and with the production, and it's just such an innovative way to keep live theater happening right now.
Yeah, it's been such an adventure, and I feel so blessed to be a part of this experience. It's been, yeah, so magical. And I think particularly with everything that is going on right now, to actually have live theater happening every week, it's incredible. Yeah, it really is.
So I want to hear all about how you got involved with it. But first, let's start with your origin story. What got you into acting and dancing and modeling, and what brought you up to this moment to be with the play?
Yeah, so I was actually born and raised in London, in England, and that's where I started my artistic journey. I feel like I was probably dancing like as soon as I came out of the womb. Like I can imagine that was the case. But I guess I started taking classes more formally from the age of 4, and that was in movement. And yeah, movement has always been my passion. It was always what I envisioned that I would pursue as a career. And I went to a university in England, and I studied a Bachelor of Arts degree in dance and in history as well. And about a year after graduating, I made the decision to move to New York in order to do some further training and to really just pursue my craft. And it was during that time, and actually during, I should say that during my degree, I also did a semester abroad at a college in the US. And it was during that semester, as well as during the training that I did after my degree, that I kind of branched out into acting and to modeling as well. And yeah, ever since then, it's just been everything that I do, pretty much. Yeah.
Wow, what a fun journey to go from the UK. I was watching some of your dance videos when you were outside of Tower Bridge and the London Eye, and that must have been such a blast. You're amongst all these tourists, and then you go from London to New York, and it's that same kind of big city energy.
Yeah, and it's so funny because I think when I came to New York, I didn't imagine that it would be much of a transition. I just thought coming from one city to another, particularly from two Western countries, that there would be a lot of similarities. But actually what I found is that there really is no place like New York.
Right.
So it's been such a great experience, very rewarding. And I'm really glad that I came here. And particularly now during the pandemic, when I'm involved in this production, it really gives me a lot of gratitude to think, wow, I'm here in New York. I'm living my dream, literally. Not even a pandemic could stop me, or evidently many artists in New York. So yeah, New York is great. It's such a resilient place and has such a great artistic community.
That's such a great point. And we have a visitor here. Limbo's joining us, my co-star. Hey, bud.
Hi.
It is one of the joys of doing these interviews at home. It's like everyone sees the pets, or when people have kids and they're doing interviews, and it's like, it's like live theater. Anything can happen.
Yes, exactly.
So hopefully he won't bark too much, but he's a pretty good boy. He's just excited to be a part of this.
That's great.
Which kind of brings me to when you're doing this show, and I mean, you're out in the elements. I know there are parts that are outside and there are parts that are inside, but anything can happen. You can't really plan if there's someone performing maybe from a different thing, like, they're just street performers nearby, or especially there are parts that are in Washington Square Park. So how does the play and the experience kind of deal with that if, it's just the joys of New York City?
Yeah, that's such an interesting question, because I think going into this experience, I was curious about whether it would feel like the show was competing with New York, because New York really is just full of characters. And I feel like every day is an adventure. And like you said, you don't know what you're going to get. But somehow it seems to fit really well together. It kind of adds a sense of magic to just be in New York with everything that is happening. So, we've definitely had some unexpected things happen. And I think it's a good challenge for us to just be able to find ways to navigate those challenges and still put on, a really great show. So I think between the performers and everyone that's working behind the scenes, like, we have a really good channel of communication, and that helps us to just get around some of these unexpected things that just pop up sometimes.
Yeah, it really exemplifies the show must go on.
Exactly. Yeah.
So why don't we get like a backstory? What is the premise of the show for people who don't know too much about it? Maybe they've just seen a few photos. How would you describe it?
Yeah, so I would describe it as an outdoor, pandemic-friendly, immersive experience where audience members in groups of up to 8 people will be taken to different venues around the village, the West Village in Manhattan. And when they get to each venue, they will have the opportunity to witness a performance. And we have puppetry, we have movement, we have storytelling, music happening throughout the piece. And really, we are centering around the story of a Parisian artist by the name of Toulouse-Lautrec. So we're kind of looking at it from the perspective of looking at it from his dreams and his visions and experiences. He had quite a colorful life. So we tried to sort of pick little bits and pieces from his life story and portray that. And he is someone that had a reputation for painting the Moulin Rouge. So yeah, in a nutshell, that's what we do. That's the story.
Yeah, and it does have those Moulin Rouge vibes and feels, and the allure of it all, and the color. And I love also seeing how it kind of changes as it goes from daylight into nighttime, and how the silhouette. So how does that work with the timing?
Actually, I think that performing at nighttime really elevates the feeling of magic. I don't know, something about the night sky really helps to add some atmosphere to our piece. And in fact, there is a scene that takes place outside, which really lends itself very well to happening at nighttime, because it is it does have lighting that really can't happen during the daytime. So yeah, the night is definitely our friend in that respect.
Ooh, it sounds so intriguing. I'm so, there have been so many moments that I wish I were still in New York. I'm actually quarantining in Washington State. That's why it's a little bit different. It's like a little cabin. It's very nice, but it doesn't allow me to go see this play. And I really, like, from doing a little research for this interview, I go, I really want to see this. It's so cool looking.
Well, I think we're planning to stick around for as long as we can, as long as it's safe, and there's interest in what we're offering. So maybe when you are able to return to the city, we'll still be going, and hopefully you can see us. That would be great.
That would be. And for everyone else who's still in the city, now is like a little reward for having stuck it out in the city during these very tough times.
Yeah, I love that. Absolutely. So yeah, definitely we would love to have you. So we're here for as long as we can be. Tickets are still available through our website. So
yeah.
So
tell us a little bit about, this is a show that could work during a pandemic, not during a pandemic. It's so flexible that I think there was also a production of it in a different way in 2019. And that's so cool that it's been adapted and in this different aspect. So were you a part of that, or are you now just joining on for this? And what was like the process of learning the material?
Yeah, so I wasn't a part of the company when the production was taking place previously. So I just came on board for this production. So I'm not really able to speak too much about the previous production, but yeah, I definitely agree with you. I think that this production can not only take place during a pandemic, during this time that we're in at the moment, but it could definitely, I think, work just as well beyond that time. Definitely.
Amazing. So just so you know, I'm muting myself because there seems to be some construction work going on, which is perfect timing for an interview. So I'll mute myself during when you're chatting, and then I'll unmute. But if there's a few awkward seconds of delay, that is why. But hey, like we said, pandemic, and we're all chatting from home. It is what we do.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I want to hear more about your character in it. Tell us like what you do, who you are, and all of that.
Yeah. So and actually, I should say, I don't know if you can hear anything on my end, but the heat has just come on in my building, and I live in one of those really old apartment buildings where the heat comes up through the pipes, and it's like very loud. So I apologize if that's distracting. But yeah, I play sort of a woman of the night type of character. I'm a showgirl. And when the audience first meets me, I have my back turned towards the audience, and I'm just in my area getting myself ready for a show. And then once the audience arrives and they knock on my window, let me know that they are here, that they're ready for a show, I then give them a show. And essentially, I'm doing a masked striptease. So rather than removing clothing, I'm removing a mask. So it's kind of a play on the current times, and it's kind of bringing into focus, you know, the masks that have really become such a focal point of this pandemic for all of us. So I do a performance where I remove the mask and I'm kind of teasing the audience and trying to seduce them. And then once I remove the mask, I become quite frustrated and angry because I am expecting a different response from the audience than what I receive. So then I sort of switch from this character of being very seductive and just I'm a showgirl to we break down the third wall and you get to see who I am behind the scenes. So I kind of go through this monologue where I'm just really angry that I'm not getting the response that I want. And yeah, I'll leave it there because I don't want to give too much away in case anyone watching decides to come and see us. But yeah, in a nutshell, that's what I do.
You know, it does also sound like there are a lot of almost current vibes with, there are a lot of things I would say that I wish there had a different response to it. And so playing a character like that and you're taking off the mask and there's that element, but also, of course, today's political climate and so much going on with all of that. Does that kind of tie together for you?
Yeah, it does, definitely. And so it's been an interesting role to play because going from this heightened character where I'm in my performance element and I'm really trying to give the crowd something, to then go from that to this character where I'm really stripping away all of those performance elements and allowing the audience to see me in a very vulnerable state, which I think is something that we don't often give ourselves permission to do, to be vulnerable with people. But, you know, in this pandemic, when we're finding ourselves engaging so much in virtual spaces, you know, most of us we're having our meetings and we're communicating with people from our own homes. That kind of forces us, I think, to be a little bit more vulnerable, perhaps, than we usually are, to let people into perhaps a side of our world that we don't usually allow people to be privy to. So I definitely think there's some crossover there for sure.
Yeah, it is so interesting. I mean, we're literally bringing people into our homes. We're showcasing like, oh, this is my couch. And, you know, and so much of that relates to, I mean, I'm not a performer myself, though in my high school days, clearly those ensemble roles were really top notch. But there is that, you know, anytime that you're doing a virtual conversation with anyone, whether it's a friend or colleague or an interview like this, that you're giving the audience a little bit more of yourself than you would be in a different way than if you were just like in person. And here we're just hearing so many different things. I want to give a shout out. I see everyone who's commenting. If y'all have any comments or questions, then please, you know, let us know. We'll be checking throughout the interview. Our dear Samara, oh my gosh, I want to make sure. I'm always so cautious with names, but then I realize I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly. My apologies. Raymond, Connie, Nadine saying, yes, Natasha, we stand forever. Global superstar. Yes, for sure. And dropping gems, life lessons for free, the generosity.
I love that.
Yeah, that it really is though. I mean, you're telling us so much about how your acting has created this connection between the pandemic world and, you know, the world that we're living in right now, which is tell me if you agree with this, but the way that the pandemic has kind of altered our views on everything from March when it all started to now January 13th. I mean, so much of my mindset of the world views have really upended and changed, and the way we see theater in general has altered. And I'm happy to see that there's a production of something that's working with these new elements.
Yeah, I think it's such an interesting part of this whole experience, the fact that we, within this production, although we are telling a story that in some ways is so different to the experience that many of us are having right now, that we are not trying to necessarily ignore what is happening right now in this moment, that we are able to find ways to make connections between something that was happening many, many years ago in the 1800s and then, you know, the current climate. And I think that's something that's so wonderful about art and creating, is the way that you can find ways to just make connections between the past and the present.
Yep, exactly. The connection, and everyone, I feel like when they go see the show, they're bringing in their own past experiences and what they're dealing with. And so you're seeing it through the eyes of the performers, but also through your everyday, your own personality and your own experiences. And that really adds an even further depth to it all. So definitely incredible. So I'm seeing it's Samara, I love that. Thank you for the phonetic spelling. So we were talking off screen, but especially with the name of this, VOYEUR. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, because when you're getting into the French, the Windows of Toulouse-Lautrec, it's kind of fun to be able to expand your palette, if you will.
Yeah. I think you did that perfectly.
Thank you. So being from London, from the UK, have you been to France? Have you visited the Moulin Rouge?
Yeah, I have been to France and to Paris specifically a few times, actually. I'm very fortunate in that it's not that far. It's not a particularly difficult commute to get from London to Paris. So I've been a few times before. Haven't seen the Moulin Rouge, but maybe. Yeah, maybe one day. But yeah, I've been a few times, so I'm very fortunate.
Yeah, you mentioned that you did a study abroad. I actually did a study abroad as well. I studied in Rome, but then of course, once you're in Rome, then you go to London and you go to France and Paris. And so I took that classic photo in front of the Moulin Rouge, didn't go inside, but it was pretty cool seeing the wheel, the spin and everything, and the Eiffel Tower, and then all of the London sites. It's really neat. Do you ever get that the people from the US who hear, oh, you have this English accent, and then they want to know all about your home experience? So what's that been like just as a Londoner amongst us?
It's funny because I've actually been here in New York for 4 years now, which is really crazy to say that. Like, sometimes I'm like, how did that happen? But I still will get people commenting on my accent even after being here for a few years now. And I think what's happening is that sometimes people don't pick up on my accent initially. Like, if it's just like a short intro, they don't necessarily pick up on the accent. But as I start to speak more, the accent, there's no getting away from it. It's there. I think it's there to stay.
Yeah.
But honestly, like, for the most part, I've received such a warm reception from people. People have, been very welcoming and seem to be quite excited when they hear an accent. And that's always so funny to me, because I'm like, you have an accent too. And I always find that people don't think they have an accent until they leave their country.
Right.
So yeah, it's always funny to me. Like, I almost forget that I have a different accent to most people here in New York until someone points it out to me.
Yeah. Yeah, that is so true. I mean, a lot of New Yorkers are like, well, this is the accent. And then you hear people from all over, and it is the melting pot. So we have people from all over the world. And it's also funny to think that, of course, we have an accent, but in your own brain, you're not really thinking of that. But I think your accent is absolutely lovely. And I appreciate it. Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, yeah. So what are some of your musical or play or dancing things that you look to that have inspired you throughout the years?
Ooh, that's a good question. Well, I have to say that the first time that I came to New York, so I came as a teenager with my mother. We came for a short trip, and during that time, I saw a Broadway show. It was the first time I'd ever seen a Broadway show. It was Chicago, and I just was like in love and so mesmerized by the performers, and also just New York as a whole. I think probably like a lot of people, I was really struck by the bright lights and the very fast-paced nature and the hustle, and the sort of 24-hour mentality. And I think it was probably at that point that I thought I need to somehow find my way to New York. I didn't know necessarily how I was going to make it, but I think it was that trip that played a big part in my decision to come to New York to pursue the arts. And I have to say that my semester abroad when I was studying at university also was a really pivotal point in my journey. I went to a college in Chicago, and I love Chicago so much. It has such a special place in my heart. And I just remember feeling so inspired when I was there, that there really are so many talented artists in Chicago. So being able to come into contact with all of these students and creatives that were very talented and committed to their craft, I think was quite inspiring for me. So I feel like those are two pretty definitive points in my journey.
Yeah, just being around other creatives really does spark your energy and creativity and give you those kind of different ideas that maybe you didn't even know that you were interested in this art form and until you start doing it. And especially you said that you've been dancing for practically your whole life, that there's so many different types of dance. Do you have a favorite type of dance?
Oh, that's a hard one. I think if I had to pick one, I would say contemporary. That is, that's generally the movement style that I feel resonates for me the most, that I find myself drawn to, and it's probably how I identify as well. Mostly, if someone asks me, you know, what kind of dancer are you, I would usually describe myself as a contemporary dancer. So yeah.
Amazing. So, okay, as much as you feel comfortable, because I realize we didn't ask about this beforehand, but being in New York City during the pandemic, during the Black Lives Matter movement, there have been so many protests, especially in that area, in the Village. And how has that affected you?
It's an interesting question, and I feel like it has a lot of layers. It's been an unusual experience, I would say, because as a person of color, who has certainly experienced degrees of racism during my lifetime, it definitely hit home, and it was heavy to witness everything that was going on, and it was tough to witness a lot of what transpired last year. But with that being said, because I'm not a citizen and I didn't grow up in this country, I don't think it would be fair for me to say that I can necessarily identify with everything that perhaps people of color in this country that were born and raised here have been feeling and experiencing. So on the one hand, there's a lot of things that resonate and a lot of things that really just hurt, and it's hard to watch and to witness. But then on the other side, there is a sense of detachment to a degree, because I don't think I can feel the full weight of what some people are feeling in this country, because I didn't grow up here and I didn't have all of the same experiences. So yeah, I kind of find myself in this really weird place.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that. We've been talking about being vulnerable throughout this episode, and that's an added degree of being vulnerable and sharing with us. So I really appreciate that.
Yeah, no problem.
So now that the pandemic has been going on, I know we talk about it so much, but it really does affect, because I imagine months ago, we couldn't have imagined having an outdoor performance like this. But now that everyone's wearing masks and there's kind of this new understanding of, well, if you stay this distance away and if you wear your masks, then you can do this, you can safely have a theatrical experience. So how has that affected your journey going through the different months? I know we talked about what it was like at the beginning until now, but more in like that actor dancer mindset.
Well, something that I found quite interesting is just the experience of performing within this setting. Particularly for my scene, a lot of my performance takes place behind a window. So I'm quite detached from the audience, in the sense that there is a physical barrier that separates us. And then on top of that, audience members are required to wear masks. So quite often, unless we get a group of people who are really animated physically and make a lot of noise and will applaud and etc., it's kind of difficult to gauge the energy and to get a sense of whether they're enjoying the piece and what the experience is like for them. So I feel like that's been a really good opportunity and a good lesson for me to trust my own process as an artist, and not to necessarily rely heavily on a particular reaction from the audience, but just trusting that, in the moment I'm present, I'm doing what I need to create the experience that I wish to create.
That is such an interesting point that I didn't even think of, is that normally actors or dancers, performers in general, can see smiling or applause or the look in someone's, eyes and mouth and their features. But now you're only seeing the eyes. And if someone's wearing glasses or sunglasses, then you don't even have that. So it's really this unique experience in so many ways. But for the actor's point of view, that you have to give this energy regardless of what you're getting back. And that sounds like this added weight on your shoulders. So kudos to you.
Thank you.
So I'm seeing someone comment, storytelling is at the root of expression. The marriage of acting and movement exemplifies that. And Natasha personifies it, AKA magic.
Oh, that is beautiful. That's so poetic.
Well done. Well done. That's from Ariel or Ariel. I know I have some friends that pronounce it differently. Now I feel like I'm just showing off that I am so terrified of pronouncing someone's name wrong that I'm scared to say it. But it's good to take risks, y'all.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's what we're doing as artists every day, I think, and creatives. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So knowing that we've been talking about acting and dancing, and you're also a model, so this, it's actually this really interesting part that you are behind this window and you're dancing, but you're also kind of modeling. So how does that work into it?
It's interesting because I feel quite fortunate in that, some of my castmates have scenes that require a lot more physical movement. And so I feel like that kind of speaks to what you were asking earlier as far as the challenges of performing outdoors. And, as a dancer, it's ideal to be somewhere where you have a sprung floor that can give you some support to kind of take away some of the pressure when you're doing movements. And of course, we just don't have the luxury of that kind of structure in place for the most part when we're performing outside. But for my particular scene, it's not particularly physical. There's movement aspects to it, but I am quite fortunate in that I am mostly in this indoor space, and the movement isn't so forceful that my body is really kind of going through a lot. So there's some storytelling, there's some modeling, there's some movement, and they all kind of fuse together to make this one piece.
Oh, that's beautiful. So give us some more information where I know tickets are available and it's happening on the weekend. So where can everyone go to find all of this?
Yeah, so we currently have shows happening once a week. Typically, they take place on Saturdays, sometimes on a Friday or Sunday. And tickets are available through our website. Unmaking Toulouse-Lautrec is the name of the site, and that's where you can find us. We're also on social media as well. We're on Instagram. So yeah, that's another way to find us.
Perfect. And so I mentioned earlier with you that at the end of every episode or towards the end, I always like to bring up if there is any nonprofits or charities that you want to give a shout out to.
Yeah, I would love to highlight the Actors Fund. Definitely, they're doing great work, and as a fellow artist myself, I definitely feel called to supporting the arts as much as possible. So, if anyone is in a position to support, I feel like that would be great.
A fabulous choice. Yeah, they're doing great work for actors and stagehands and everyone. It's not just the actors, it's really beyond everyone who's involved in theater. And like supporting your show right now, supporting artists is so vital, because if you think about it, for everyone watching at home, because I know you are, art is everywhere and art is a part of us. And what are we doing right now but watching videos and movies and dancing and listening to podcasts, reading books, listening to music? It's so important to have the arts in our lives. And so whether you're watching something, at home, or if you're able to socially distance, go see this amazing performance, it's just so important to remember that right now we need 100% to be supporting our artists.
Thank you. Yeah, that was really well said. I couldn't have put it better myself.
Well, thank you. Thank you. So was there anything that you came into today wanting to make sure to share with everyone, to share with your fans out there? You're very loyal fans. I see all these comments that people are very excited about you.
That's so lovely. I wish I could see the comments.
Yeah.
But yeah, people have been incredibly generous and supportive. And so, it was lovely to hear some of the comments that you shared today. But I didn't come into this experience necessarily with anything on my agenda. I just, I'm just here. I want to be present in this moment. And if there's any questions that you or anyone else has, I'm definitely happy and open to answer questions.
Amazing. So yes, everyone out there, if you have any questions, now is kind of your final roll call to make sure to get them out there. But if they can't think of them now, where can everyone find you on social media?
Oh, yeah. So you can find me on all of the different social media channels, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, etc., as my full name, which is Natasha Frater. So that's Natasha, and then Frater, Frater.
Nice, nice, amazing. So one of my last questions, I always just like to hear from people, what's one of your favorite things to do in New York City?
Oh, good question. I feel like before the pandemic, it probably would have been something different. But now that we find ourselves in this position, I think spending time in nature has been such an incredibly fulfilling and transformational experience for me. I think it's been so important for me in just helping me to stay grounded and balanced. And I feel like I came to New York not necessarily expecting there to be so much nature. You know, it's kind of known as the concrete jungle, and there's all of these huge skyscrapers, but there's actually a lot of really wonderful parks and places where you can just immerse yourself in nature. So yeah, I really enjoy just exploring nature, really.
Honestly, the same. I love nature, especially right now. You don't really think about it until you're either without it or you're immersed in it completely. And one of the beautiful things about Washington State is just looking out my window. It's just there are mountains galore, and I take Slim out to the field here, and very fortunate to have a field out here that I can just walk right outside the doors and see all these trees and the flowers and the mountains. And I miss Central Park and the Washington Square Park and Madison Square Park. I mean, I used to just walk up and down the city because it's one of the easiest places to walk around and just immerse yourself. Actually used to do that in London too. I spent quite a long time there just walking up and down the Thames.
Oh, nice. It's so strange. I haven't been back home to London for over a year now because of the pandemic.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's really odd. Normally I would go home at least once or twice a year, but yeah, wasn't to be this past year.
I know. It is tough, but when you get back there, it'll be even better.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. I agree.
Mm-hmm. So we have a question here from Nadine.
Mm-hmm.
What is your reason? What drives you each day to continue creating such beautiful art?
Oh, that's such a great question. I think for me, art has given me so much in my life. It's not just a career, it's not just a means of income, but I feel like it's an extension of my identity, and it has allowed me to learn so many life lessons. So I think the fact that I get so much back from engaging in art, it really motivates me to want to give more of myself to art as well.
Ooh, that's beautiful. It sounds like artists really, you're just driven to it, that you can't stay away from it. And the people who watch you perform feel that same energy coming from you. So it's really this beautiful symbiotic relationship.
Yeah, it's beautiful, definitely. And I don't know, it almost makes me think, you know, I it's probably not the best comparison to make, but it's almost like an addiction.
Yeah.
It's so hard to not make art, I think, for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the fact that, you know, we're here in this pandemic, and, you know, those of us that are artists and are making art are still, you know, committed to that. I think it just goes to show how addictive it is, and how difficult it is to stay away. I mean, so often I tell myself, okay, I'm gonna like take a few days off, I'm gonna like switch off, and somehow like I still find myself applying for gigs or you know, working on some self projects, some choreography, or shooting some content. It's like even on an off day, I still find myself in that mindset of, okay, you know, what can I do? What can I make? What can I create? It's just a part of my daily routine, I guess.
You are voicing so many of the things I'm feeling, that regardless of if I have an interview one day, I end up taking Slimbo out to the field and taking photos or videos. And there's just something that drives us. It is like an addiction. I mean, they talk about social media addiction, but there's something different about the need to create. It's all about rent, right? That there's this need to create. And there's this, I think right now we're trying to find any way to create and connect with people and connect with ourselves in a deeper way. And so that's really important, is to follow that and continue to take and listen to yourself and say, what do I really need? And maybe it is to continue to act and do things at home just for you, so that when you do have a job or you do have this opportunity, you can do it for like these other reasons and to fulfill this other part of your soul.
Absolutely. And I do think that, you know, just to add to what you're saying, it is a wonderful way to connect with other people. And as we do find ourselves in this really unusual time where we're not able to connect in the ways that we are used to doing, I think that a lot of us are trying to find ways to navigate that and to create new ways to connect. So personally, for me, engaging in art is a way that I can stay connected to people, to my fellow artists. It's a way for me to continue to stay inspired as well, because I think that with everything that has been happening over the past few months, it could be really easy to find yourself feeling very deflated and, you know, not finding so many reasons to be inspired. Completely, you know, understandable if that has been anyone's experience. So I just think that if you are able to find something that keeps you going, that makes you want to get up in the morning, that, you know, that excites you and stimulates you, and that's definitely true for me when it comes to making and being a part of art, then I think you should just kind of grab hold of it and don't let go.
Yes, co-sign all of that. So Nadine, looks like you're going to take my job, because this is another fabulous question. Thank you for asking it. Asking, what has been the proudest moment of your career so far?
Wow. Well, I have to say, despite, you know, some of the challenges that have materialized within the past year, I have been really fortunate in that I have experienced some real blessings within my career, and being a part of this production has really been such a highlight for me. You know, I found myself last year kind of mentally preparing for the fact that I may not be able to perform to a live audience until perhaps at best the spring of this year. I mean, I think, you know, it really hit home for me when I heard that Broadway were shutting their doors. I was just like, oh my gosh, like, you know, I just don't know when I'll be able to perform again. But with that being said, I still remained hopeful and still continued to apply for things. And when I got cast in this production, it really has been great. I mean, we've had such wonderful feedback. some really wonderful reviews in publications like the New York Times, for example. So yeah, getting that kind of exposure and that opportunity to continue what I love to do has been, yeah, probably the highlight for me.
Wow, that's amazing. And it is important to really celebrate these victories right now, because times can be so dark and tough, and that if we don't celebrate the good times, then we'll just get bogged down. And this is such a joyous thing to celebrate. So congratulations.
Thank you so much. It's funny, I was literally just having a very similar conversation with a friend of mine recently, where we were talking about some achievements that she had experienced recently. And I was like, I think it's really easy, particularly living in a big city like New York, to get caught up with that hustle and just thinking about always getting on to the next thing, and not taking time to just celebrate the wins that you're experiencing in this moment. So that really resonated for me.
It's actually funny because you are chatting with me in between these two kind of big moments. That yesterday was the 100th episode of the Show Must Go Online, which
wow,
is bonkers. Hey. Thank you for being 101. Pretty exciting.
Thank you.
And tomorrow's my birthday.
Oh, happy birthday. Oh, that's exciting. Do you have any plans?
Oh gosh, probably just watch Hamilton and Newsies on Disney Plus, and just walk around with Slim, and my boyfriend and my friends got me some roses, which are very lovely, very kind. So just trying to celebrate. It's that same thing of like, well, this is a different birthday. Normally I'd go see a show or hang out with friends, and can't really do that, but I'm also so grateful for the opportunity to connect with people virtually. So I'm really like soaking all of that in.
That's good. I think that's such a positive way to look at, this experience that we're in right now.
And how about you? Now that we've been in this situation for quite some time, you've either had your birthday or it's coming up. So
yeah, I had my birthday in October. And I'm really blessed because my birthday took place during a time when we weren't in a lockdown. The cases, I don't think, were rising at that point. So there was still something happening. So I was actually performing on the day of my birthday, so I wasn't able to celebrate necessarily then. But actually, I couldn't have asked for a better way to celebrate my birthday, to do what I love. And I think that actually that date coincided, if my memory serves me well, I think that coincided with our official opening date as well. So that was pretty exciting. We'd had like a week of previews, and then, my birthday was the official opening day.
Wow, that's amazing. And happy belated birthday.
Thank you.
Yes. So is there anything else that you want to share with everyone watching at home with bated breath?
Just please stay safe, look after yourselves, and continue to find ways to be inspired. And I hope for everyone's sake that this year is a better year.
Yes to all of that. Wear a mask, be safe, take care of yourself, look out for one another, definitely. And y'all can find me at VOYEUR. I realized I didn't share that earlier, but you can see it throughout these wonderful designs on this banner. That's BWAYSHO. We also have VOYEUR, the podcast. So if you prefer to listen on audio form, there you go. So with all of that, I thank you so much for you taking the time to spend your day with us here. Thank you.
Thank you. It's been such a pleasure to connect. Thank you for having me.
Really appreciate it. And thank you to everyone watching at home. Y'all have been amazing and commenting, and you can watch the comments afterwards because this YouTube video will stay on forever. So you can just go back in and check that out and see how much everyone loves you.
Thank you.
Yes, yes. Well, I hope y'all have a great rest of your day. Be safe, go see the show, and we'll see you at the show. Bye.
Bye, everyone. Thank you, Shoshana.
Thank you.